My Hero Academia is over, but Horikoshi gave us one last surprise by creating an extra final chapter of MHA that comes with volume 42 of the manga. In this chapter, we get all sorts of exciting developments and learn about our characters after that long 8-year time skip. However, one thing that I found really interesting was how this chapter continues to expand on the strange lore around how quirks, souls, and transfusions work in My Hero Academia. In the final bonus chapter, Ochako is kind of the main character, and we start with seeing her in a dream with a black sky and a beautiful grass field. All around her there are clouds and the wind blows hard, almost knocking her back, until she opens her eyes and sees Himiko Toga standing right in front of her. Now keep in mind that Ochako has gotten older, but Toga of course appears here at the same age she was when she passed, as feathers start to fall all around them, and Toga tries to talk to our hero saying, "Ochako, hey." At that moment, Uraraka realizes she's dreaming and wakes up in her apartment sitting at her desk, where we see she must have worked all day and night, considering she's still halfway in her hero costume after such a long night of paperwork. Because it seems like more than anybody else, this girl has been working non-stop ever since we left our characters behind during the end of this series. We've talked a few times about how Ochako created a quirk counseling service that became extremely popular in Japan and is now even being taken internationally because of how well it lowered the quirk crimes rate. However, Ochako herself is very hands-on with this project, and at the same time she also still works as a hero. And as the chapter goes on, a big focus is how Ochako is successful in her career, but she's kind of a loser outside of that. At one point, while she's describing all the work she does, Sun Eater asks her if she has time for herself while doing all that, and she looks at him confused like, "Me time?" At this point, she responds that since she works doing what she loves, has Frappe as her assistant, and can still see her friends while she's working, she feels like all of her time is her me time, with a big smile on her face. And we finally get the confirmation that not only did Mirio become the #1 hero of Japan after everything was said and done, but he also grew out this ridiculous looking pompadour, which reminds me of Kuwabara or Josuke. In adulthood, Mirio actually has some upgrades to his hero costume, like how his legs now have a huge #1 coming from the stripes near his boots, which lead into the bottom of his boots, which have zeros all around them, showing that his goal of saving over 1 million people has only grown since the last time we saw him. Mirio shows up in this chapter with Sun Eater, who also has a cool upgrade to his cape and hood that now look like teeth, and of course alongside them is Nejire, who more than ever is looking like an absolute baddie, while the three of them go with Ochako and Tsuyu to one of Ochako's quirk counseling events. Now Mirio being the #1 hero isn't too big of a surprise, especially because the hero system got restructured by All Might and Hawks, but he shows up to the school and they all instantly demand he does the thing, causing Mirio to basically put himself inside of a tree as he pokes his butt out from all over the tree, telling the students to attack the peaches with their quirks, allowing him to learn just what this class is capable of. Every student attacks Mirio with their quirk as Ochako looks into the crowd and notices one boy scared to act, just watching the others. It's at this point where she reaches her hand out to him and uses her float bubbles to lift the boy up into the sky, allowing him to use his electrified water quirk to zap Mirio and bring the game to an end. At this point, Mirio praises the boy, saying it's been a while since anyone's caught one of his peaches, as he dramatically says, "It's peach season," and everyone starts to cheer and go absolutely crazy. This would have never been what I would have guessed Mirio's life would be like, but considering that he's listed as the comedian hero and how he interpreted Night Eye's final message, I understand why he went with this angle, since if it was funny enough to make Shigaraki chuckle, it's probably funny enough to keep any more Shigarakis from appearing. Knowing something is up as usual though, on the side, Frappe waits until the two of them are alone on the train to have a conversation with her friend. You see, Frappe knows that Toga has been appearing in Ochako's dreams for a long time, and while it went away for a while, when she asks Ochako if it's happening now, Ochako says that it's been happening for about a month, but she can't really remember the dreams all that well, just flashes here and there. This makes her wonder if she's just under too much stress with all of the work she's doing, saying she even went to a doctor to get checked on, however they couldn't find a single thing wrong with her. Frappe gets annoyed here, telling Ochako that she needs to be more proactive with her life and stop taking everything people say at face value. Like, did she even consider getting a second opinion? Here, Ochako realizes that it's possible that Toga is actually trying to send her a message, since because Toga's blood mixed with hers, it's possible that some sort of small vestige of her personality is lingering inside of her and sending her messages. And honestly, this part of the chapter is such a breath of fresh air, because now more than ever, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Deku feel like just regular guys talking in the car, and I say that to say the dialogue here is really great. First off, Bakugo gets annoyed that he has to give Deku a ride, since they're all going to a reunion dinner with the other UA students to celebrate Shoto reaching a new all-time high on the Hero Billboard charts. Kirishima mocks Bakugo, saying he was the one who suggested it in the first place because he wanted to show off his brand new car, but Bakugo says Kirishima threatened to scratch the car if he didn't drive. Kirishima laughs like, "Oh, excuse me, is the great Dynamite scared of threats now?" as Deku sits in the back next to his armored suitcase, sinking into the weird back seat. As the conversation goes on, Deku jokes about how Bakugo got tons of sidekick applications, but he turned all of them away in tears, with some even giving up on being sidekicks at all. Kirishima tries to say it was Bakugo's bad attitude, but he says that none of the sidekicks had any drive if a single one of them said that they wanted to surpass surpass Bakugo, he'd have accepted them in a heartbeat, since that's the kind of sidekick he wants. Bakugo is looking for a rival, and while they're on the topic, he asks Deku if Deku is going to keep on teaching now that he has that new suit, to which Deku responds, yeah, of course, saying that teaching is something he most likely would have done even if he did still have one for all. At this point, Kirishima starts laughing really loud, saying that Deku denied Bakugo's offer, as cluelessly Deku sits there not realizing that that's what the conversation was really about, and doubles down saying, yeah, that's not gonna happen. When you really look at things here though, it's obvious how much Bakugo wanted Deku to join his agency, because even this new car is made so that the person in the back seat is basically always cushioned and safe from danger, meaning you might have thought Deku would be a sidekick, or maybe that they would run the agency together now. Unfortunately for him, that'll never be a reality, sort of like another pairing that fans keep talking about. However, at the very least, Bakugo tells Deku that he needs to start thinking more highly about himself, because if he doesn't, he's never gonna see the value that other people see in him, saying that if everybody is special to Deku, then no one truly is, which pushes Deku to make a huge decision at the dinner. Everyone, raise your glasses. It's time to celebrate the career of one of Class 1A's very own alumni, a man whose career we followed from the very beginning, Shoto Todoroki. Today, he's being celebrated for reaching the #2 spot on the Hero Billboard charts, with only Mirio being above him, making Shoto the highest ranking student in our main class, as Bakugo angrily sits over in the number 15 spot. Now, to celebrate, all of the Class 1A students reunite for a huge dinner, as Shoto, the AC unit hero, apologizes that they all had to take out time to be there. Kaminari jokes that this ranking was just an excuse for them to get together, which makes Shoto sad for a second since he's still not that bright. As everyone talks, they discuss how complicated the hero ranking system is getting, saying that they should really celebrate high ranks now because it's getting harder and harder to take at face value. However, Tokoyami says that things will continue to get stranger as heroes maintain their power, despite the fact that villains are getting weaker and weaker thanks to their efforts. This leads to the thought that heroes are actually heading towards extinction because they're working towards a society that doesn't need heroes anymore. Well, since really anyone and everyone can be a hero themselves by reaching out to others. As this conversation is happening, Shoto announces to everyone that he's going to be moving away to take chopstick and bowl creating classes in Ishikawa because he feels like he'd enjoy his food more if he made the utensils he's eating with and the bowl he's eating out of. This may seem weird and sort of random, but Shoto tells him people always tell him he battled against a cruel fate and won, but even if his life was destined to go the way it has so far, he feels like he himself would have made the same decisions to get strong and keep fighting up until where he is today. One day, while praying at Dabi's altar in his home, he realized that being a hero isn't the end-all be-all, and it's not even what he's necessarily most interested in, as he says he always loved eating, and now he has spare room in his heart to make it a priority. Deku hears this talk about having spare room in his heart for something special and pieces it together with the conversation he had with Bakugo in the car, and is starting to get a picture of what people say his biggest issue is. However, Deku has had a lot on his mind all night as he keeps getting told that he's not living life to the fullest in different ways. First, it was Bakugo, who told him that Deku is still too naive, and not only does he not value himself nearly enough, but he also treats everyone like they're special, meaning he doesn't have anyone that's actually just special to him. After that, Deku heard Todoroki talking about having spare room in his heart after everything that's happened, and now that his life is stable, so he's gonna make some changes and discover a new side of himself that he never knew before. As the dinner goes on and on, Deku thinks about how happy he is that he's gotten to do what he loves by teaching, while also being able to return to being a hero alongside his friends. So he feels like it's not right for him to ask for any more, but he gets curious about this other side of himself that he's never seen. What could it be? At that moment, when he hears the 1A women laughing at another table while they gossip over relationship stuff, he spots Ochako eating and laughing as Deku completely pauses and can't even finish his drink, realizing exactly what he's been missing in his life when Ochako and him meet eyes for a second, and he feels extremely nervous. Unfortunately for him, a call comes in that a villain has stolen a car and actually created a major incident, causing every single one of these heroes to suit up and go handle that as quickly as possible. And afterwards, everyone goes their separate ways, heading home. As we pick back up on Ochako, Ochako walks through the streets thinking about how far away her and Deku sat from each other, meaning they didn't even get a moment to talk. Despite that, she thinks about how often she gets to see Deku because of her job, and thinks about that moment between the two of them on the cliff at the end of the series, thinking to herself that they both found what they wanted to do in life and dive headfirst, respecting each other's decisions without ever addressing their feelings. So maybe it's best for her to just leave it alone. However, no matter what she tries, the feeling that Ochako just wants to go and see Deku takes over, and as she looks back to turn around, she spots Deku running towards her as fast as he can through the crowd, waving with a smile on his face, telling Ochako that while he respects everyone and loves them too, today he realizes that more than anyone else, he wants to talk to Ochako Uraraka more, and that from now on, he wants her to be someone special just for him, as the spirit of Toga pushes Ochako forward, and she gets really shy, blushing for a bit before replying she was thinking the exact same thing, bringing this series to its end with the confirmation of IzuOcha and finally putting those shitty Bakudekus in the grave. We've officially gotten word from Horikoshi on what the hero rankings look like after the end of My Hero Academia, as with this final bonus chapter for the series, we got updated looks of the pro heroes we followed over the course of the manga. So where do they end up on the chart? Well, starting off, we have one of my favorite characters in the entire series, Mirio, who rocks out at the number 6 spot on the Billboard chart, maintaining her dominance for over 8 years in the top 10. Right above her, we have Best Jeanist in the number 5 spot, which is funny since for a while Best Jeanist was actually the number 1 hero, considering both Hawks and Endeavor retired while he was in a number 3 spot. Above them, we have Kamui Woods, who had his debut in the very first chapter of the series, but is now standing in the 4th slot on the Billboard charts, having a new look and really dangerous atmosphere around them, while by his side we have Mount Lady, who rocketed all the way up to the number 8 spot. Beyond them, other beloved characters also kept up on their hero work, with Power Loader landing in the number 42 slot, Ryukyu being the number 40 ranked hero, and Present Mike and his funky new hair being listed as number 45. This makes me wonder just where IzuOcha exists on this list, but since we don't get his ranking, I'll give you the rankings for some of the students and side characters, like that water guy who helped out during the war somehow becoming the number 25 hero, right next to Gang Orca at number 21, or Kendo from Class 1B being the number 23 hero. If that's a surprise, make sure you're sitting down, because not only is Honenuki in the number 14 slot, but Monoma actually became so cracked that he reached the number 10 slot on the Billboard charts, officially making the hero who can't do anything on his own one of the top 10 heroes in Japan, and 5 slots higher than Makugo, which I'm sure he loves. For a few more students, we know that Tetsu ended up in the number 26 slot, with his classmates Tokage at the number 22 rank and Manga at the number 33 rank respectfully. Lastly, over at Shiketsu, we found out that Inasa dyed his hair blonde, since that guy is on a bit of a rebellious streak at the number 16 slot on the Billboard chart, while Meatball had a huge glow up but still hangs around the number 41 rank, leaving Cammy as an unranked sidekick as she unzips her costume and lets them thangs out. Now, I know you want to know exactly where all of our Class 1A students rank in their adult years. We have Lemillion at the number 1 slot, joined by Nejire, who managed to get to the number 7 rank overall on the Billboard charts, with Sun Eater still not being confident enough to go solo, so he goes unranked as a sidekick at Fat Gum's agency. Starting with the 1A characters that are also either sidekicks or unranked, we have Koda, Sugarman, and Aoyama, who all work as sidekicks at different agencies, and for the non-sidekicks, we have Shinso and Deku. Deku just started hero work again last month, so that's why he's unranked, but Shinso probably typically doesn't leave behind much evidence of his work, considering how his quirk works, so that would explain why he's unranked as well. Now, here goes the juicy part. Starting from the lowest rankings to the highest, we have Mineta ranked 108, making him the lowest of the low, which tracks. After him, there's Kaminari at the number 44 slot, which is kind of funny, since he was friends with Mineta, but clearly focused on his studies enough to get a high ranking. Going further, we have Toru the Invisible Girl ranked at 39, Sero at 36 despite being Japan's Spider-Man, Froppy at 34 despite being Japan's Spider-Woman, and Ojiro ranked at 32, which actually fits with how normal he is, as Jiro rounds out the 30s at rank 30. In the 20s, we don't have many students, just Ashido at rank 28 and Ochako at rank 24, which is surprising because of the amount of work she's done to help Hero Society in general. But that's neither here nor there. Rank 19, we have Momo Yaoyorozu, the creation hero, and below her at 17, we have Tokoyami, who still can't overcome Bakugo, who we find at the number 15 rank. Now, Bakugo initially started off as the number 4 hero on his first ranking, but because of his attitude, he's been sliding down further and further. After that, we have the top of the class as far as rankings go, with Ida coming in at the number 13 rank, Kirishima being the number 12 ranked hero, and lastly, Shoji actually cracking his way into the top 10 heroes, being number 9 on the billboards, with the only student from their class higher than him being Shoto Todoroki, the newly crowned number 2 hero. Honestly, I'm surprised at how these rankings played out, but are you? Let me know in the comments, and what do you think about the fact that Monoma ranked at number 10, making him higher than most of the characters he clowned on? Kohei Horikoshi, the author of My Hero Academia, is having a massive year with the release of another MHA movie that sold amazingly well, alongside a well-received season of MHA and the release of the final volume of the manga. On top of all of this, Horikoshi had time to work on sketches every week that he posted on Twitter, as well as some bonus illustrations that come with the final volume, and even an entire extra chapter that shows us the lives of our characters 8 years after the end of the series. So with that said, as Horikoshi is finally giving MHA this huge push, he's also started to talk about what comes next. In an interview with Marvel that came alongside this really cool art swap where Horikoshi was able to draw Spider-Man alongside Deku and All Might, Horikoshi jokes about how there's so much pressure from everyone else about what he's gonna do next since MHA was so huge, and it got to the point where he told himself he would just draw the next series he worked on instead of writing it. Eventually though, after having a few conversations, people told him that he was crazy and that he should write his next series as well, something that he's already started to do, as Horikoshi says he's working on preliminary sketches and manuscripts for his next manga. But for the meantime, before he announces anything, he wants to continue to support MHA because there are a few events and things coming still. Now this has fans all over speculating. Will this new manga be a sequel to My Hero Academia, or are we getting something brand new from this author now that he should have all the power to basically do whatever he wants? Many people will know how Horikoshi's art started to get pretty dark and even more detailed than normal, starting from around the Vigilante Deku arc all the way through to the ending of the series, and Horikoshi himself has suggested that he wants to make a more horror focused series eventually, so could that actually come true? Maybe in a year or two we'll be reading a new Kohei Horikoshi horror manga set to carry Shonen Jump into another new era, but while he's working on that, there are some amazing new manga in the magazine that we're going to take a look at, like Ichi the Witch, or even outside of the magazine like Gachi Akuta, that I think I'm going to have to talk about soon.